So hi, my name's Ronan Murdock and welcome to Leading for Business. Now, for any of my 6th years who are working off the book, we're on page 245, and any of my 5th years, it's on page 45, okay? So you can look through them there. So what I want us to do now to make sure today is that we just go over the basics of our ratios, right? Now again, going on this, there's a big mistake students will do with the ratios is that they'll nearly jump ahead, and a lot of the time they'll sort of learn off the 6 formulas, and then they'll just pick out questions from the book and they'll do 1 or 2 and they'll get it right, and then they'll think they'll know the question. But you can be lulled into a false sense of security with this, because there's a few trick questions, and what they can do some years is they can hide, like they might ask you to calculate the net profit margin, but they won't actually give you the net profit margin, and you guys have to calculate that out using your understanding of the course. So if you really, to conquer accounting, you have to really, these ratios questions, you have to go through these sort of steps at the start, right? And the first key step is you want to make sure you understand the profit and loss account, which you're going to look at. Balance sheet, you want to make sure you understand that. You don't need to be able to draw, like they won't ask these questions, like they won't ask you to draft a balance sheet, okay? It's not like in leaving sort of accounting, but in business, you want to be able to understand the basics of it, okay? And that will come up later on. The next thing then is you want to make sure you know the formulas, and that's a given, of course, but I find most students will start here. You start here, and then you start up with these things. Get the basics right, then move on to the formulas. Then make sure you can practice past questions, of course that'll make you better. Get the calculations perfect in all the past questions. And that's what I'd always do, like you'll pretty much always have half your marks going into the calculations, and then the other half will be for how you analyse the figures. But get the basics right, just keep chipping away at the calculations at the start. Now when you know then move on to to learning how to analyse the figures. But do it in blocks. I always drill through the calculations first, and then once you know that inside out, then we can work on practicing how to analyse the trends and stuff. Of course, it goes without saying, practice the past questions, because when you start to work on the past questions, you spot the trick questions, and they can change things around, and it'll all, they'll recycle a lot of the same tricks. So once you get your past questions, indirectly, then you'll spot all the trick questions as well. But I can't stress that enough. And the great one to do the accounting and these questions on average, if you base it out like over the last 20 years, on average this comes up. On average this will be worth 7% of your paper, right? So if you break out the trends, like something like 17 times out of 20 years, they asked you a question on the ratios. But even if you break down like the amount of times it's come up and how many marks, divide that by the 20 years, you'll get 7% of your paper. Something like roughly 28 marks overall out of 100, or sorry, out of 400, which calculates to me about 7%. So what you get this right, 7% of your leaving cert on average. Right, let's go for it here. So if you guys follow me up here, this is the first step we're going to do. Understand how the profit and loss account works, okay? And you'll see why later on when practicing the past questions, why knowing this is absolutely essential, right? So at the start there, I'm just going to use an example. My friend has a fruit business, and this is like roughly the time he had in the first couple of years, right? So the first thing then you had when he set it up, his sales were 40,000, right? So if you're looking at that there, that's the money he had coming in, 40,000. Now of course that's not his profit, that's the money he gets before he pays all his bills. So the first thing you look at here is COGS. Now COGS, guys, that's your cost of goods sold. That's basically this lad with his fruit business, this is the amount of money he had to pay his farmer, okay? So what you have here is cost of goods sold, the stock he bought in his business, right? The stock he bought came up to being 32,000. So you knock that off, guys, you've got your gross profit, okay? And that's the profit you made off selling your actual stock. But it's not your real profit, because now you have to factor in your expenses. Your expenses can be things like bills and rent and insurance and all that sort of stuff, and that'll leave you with your net profit. So if we're going down through it again, first year you sold the business, he had 40,000 euro in sales. So he sold 40 grand worth of fruit, paid his farmer 32. That left him with 8,000 profit on his stock. However, he had expenses. He bought a van, and he had his diesel on the van, okay? And that was 4,000, and then he was left then with a net profit of 4,000, okay? So what you want to always make sure, even like the key thing there you're looking at, it's like the net profit, 4,000, that's like this bottom line. That's like the amount of profit his business actually made that year. Following year, things went worse. Sales dropped down, really bad weather, people weren't buying strawberries. So following year, sales dropped down to 28,000. However, his farmer dropped his price down by a lot as well, and people buying that stock off his farmer. The stock went down to 21. So he still made 7,000 euro on his profit. Okay, so on his stock was 7,000 euro, the profit on the stock. And then he had his expenses, 4,480 euro. his expense went up, and that left him then with a net profit of €2,520. Okay, so that's kind of looking all the figures. Like at first glance when you're doing it, that's what we get with our profit and loss account. Like the basics I'd always be looking out for here is that, like, you can see there that his from one year to next his profit dropped. Okay, so the second year wasn't as good, didn't take in as much money, profit fell. But that's what you want to be able to do when you always understand it. So then, like, what we'll do then, like, I wouldn't worry then, like, even if you're doing, like, if you're kind of like filling in the blanks, like let's say they left that blank and you open up the leaving cert, like they did it before in a couple of past questions. They said, right, the gross profit was 8,000, the expenses was 4,000, what was the net profit? And if you guys know the later profit and loss account, you're able to be like, right, well, take that off, that leaves me €4,000 here. Like I'd always say to my class, this takes you about 10 seconds. Always go like sales minus COGS gives you the gross profit minus expenses, that gives you your net profit. Takes about 10 seconds. Do that in your leaving cert, and then you're like, right, you know, my sales 40,000 minus my COGS 32,000, gross profit 8, you know, minus expenses 4, and then your net profit's there, 4,000. That's a very, very handy one though. If they ever hide any of them, you know this is nearly like your format. So like, and we'll get to that. We'll come up with those questions. That's like one of the trick questions, but that's why I always make sure you can draw it out from scratch. And it comes up in lots of different ways. When you're analysing figures, if your net profit dropped, you can always relate that back to because expenses may have increased. Or if they ask you why did your gross profit drop, you can relate that info back to your supplier driving up its price or anything like that. You know, or your sales, you know, more theft in the shop or something. But once you've got that there, that's like your basics. Okay, it only takes 10 seconds to write that out and leave it. Okay, so you just fire that down your page, and that can help you structure answers. We'll go back to the question, right? So what you have here is this is going over the basics. Let's use that information there to actually calculate our calculation. So we're going to look at 2 of the ratios now, right? So you have 6 ratios overall to do. It breaks down to profitability, liquidity, and gearing. Okay, so in profitability there's 3 ratios: gross profit margin, net profit margin, return on investment. Okay, so we're going to drill through the first 2 now. So we'll do the gross profit margin here. So I'll just separate this here. So this company here for 2011 and 2012. Let's look what they had in 2011. So if we get our information here, 2011, the sales was 40,000. Multiplied by 100, or sorry, gross profit, starting off there again, the gross profit was 8,000. Multiplied by 100, that gives their sales there 40,000. Now if you guys, I'll just grab the calculator here. If you guys are working on this, right, it's put yourself in the examiner's position when they're grading it. They're going to be looking out for 3 things: the formula, the workings, and the correct answer. So you fire down the formula always, marks going for that, show them the workings, and now put in the correct answer. So the formula for calculating gross profit margin: gross profit multiplied by 100 divided by our sales. Okay. So if I'm doing this here, and you know, you can even practice through this, so you can pause yourself. If I'm doing the gross profit margin, I key 8,000 into calculator, multiply by 100, divide by 40,000. The answer that I'm going to guess is 20. And I express that in percentage, and that's 20%, okay? So I won't bother doing the calculator here. If you do it on your own time, your calculator, key in 8,000, multiply by 100, press equals, divide by 40,000, that's the answer you're going to get. You're going to get 20, you put that as 20%, okay? And that's the first year done, right? Now, we'll jump over and do 2012, and we'll actually then look in a second what that means, right? So let's look at 2012. Right, what was the gross profit in 2012? It was 7,000. So I slap that in here. And then I divide it by 28,000 here. So again, 7,000 multiplied by 100, press equals, divide by 28,000. The answer that's going to pop up in your calculator is 25. You put that as a percent. Okay, so 25%. Alright, so what does that actually tell us? Well, what we see here is if I was talking about trends, okay, if they're asking me to analyse this, in 2011, right, I know for every euro that company took in, they made 20% profit off their stock. So like for every euro the business took in, every euro the company took in, they made 20% profit on the stock. So if this company here, we see it there, they took in 40,000 euro. What's 20% of 40,000 euro? 8,000, and that was the profit that they made off their stock. So that's why you do the gross profit margin, right? Now, if we're following from the 2 years, in 2011 it was 20%, and then it went up by 5% to 25% in 2012. And that's a positive trend, okay? So like, I know their sales might have dropped in there, it might have been a bad year, but what happened that year is their farmer, because the sales had dropped, their farmer dropped down the price a lot. and that was a positive trend, and that's why their gross profit margin rose. But and that's due guys at spot there. It's a positive trend. Supplier probably dropped their price. You know, the leaving cert did ask you to give a reason why, and remember what we're going back to here. If we're even able to look at the basic thing there, the gross profit. Why did the gross profit go up? Be one really of two reasons. You may have raised your selling price, okay, so you make more profit off the stock you're taking in, or else you may have found a cheaper supplier, or your farmer may have dropped their price. It could be anything. The farmer could drop the price because business might have been buying more stock and they might have got a discount for buying in bulk. But everyone with me in this, see the way it's so important. I'm show you, it takes 10 seconds to throw that thing down and you're leaving it, right? Once you've got that there, you're like, right, why did the gross profit margin go up? One of two reasons. Okay, you're making a higher profit in your sales, or something to do with your supplier that dropped their price. That's what we have there. Okay, you can speculate that'll be one of those two reasons. But overall, guys, that is a positive trend. Okay, gross profit margin increased. Right, let's look over the next one then. Okay, so you've got your, we'll do the net profit margin now. Okay, so the second one. So the formula for net profit margin is net profit multiplied by 100 divided by our sales. So if we look there for 2011, net profit margin was 4,000, multiply that by 100 equals, and then we divide it by our sales, which was 40,000. You do the calculations there, guys, you're going to get 10 in your calculator. So you get 4,000 multiplied by 100 equals, and then you divide that by 40,000. What pops up in your calculator is 10. You put that as 10%. Okay, so just get into the habit, make sure you always put those things in as 10%. Now, what that tells us that year is for every euro the company took in, 10% of that was the company's overall profit. So after they paid off all their bills, they paid off their wages, their rent, their insurance, their suppliers, 10% of that was the company's money to keep. Okay, so it's not the profit off their stock, it's their overall profit. Okay, so net profit margin that year was 10%. And we look over the following year, we'll slide in our figures again. Remember what was the net profit margin the following year? It was 2,520 euro multiplied by 100. Divide that by 28,000. Okay, if you're doing that there in your calculator, the answer that comes pop up was 9. You put that as a percentage, 9%. Now what we see here, guys, is we can see a negative trend. Okay, so what's happened here is the net profit margin has fallen by 1%. Okay. And that again, we see the big reason why. Do you remember what we're going back to here, okay? Remember the thing we were looking at, right? Is that you've got your, and this would have taken you again 10 seconds, right? But you're like, right, why did the net profit margin go up? Well, it boils down to expenses increasing, okay? And let's actually look at the evidence on the chart up here. What happened? The expenses rose. Okay, see right there, the expenses went from 4 grand up to 4,480. And that again is going to drive down your profit. And that's the reason. So if you're in the leading cert in June, they're like, right, potential reasons why your net profit fell, you boil the answer back down to your expenses. Okay, that could be anything like higher insurance costs, more overtime from the staff, wage bill going up, and it's your expenses. Okay, but that's just what you want to make sure you're looking out for on those sort of questions there. So that's it. That's sort of like the basics. Now, like these questions will be like progressively harder and stuff, but like sometimes I find you want to make sure you've got the basics of that inside out, the basics of that done well. So that's what I would advise. A great little exercise to do, and you've kind of seen me do it, right? I find that like you can nearly be lulled into a false sense of security. If you kind of watch it on the board, like, yeah, that makes sense. Nothing can substitute for actually, like, if you guys were to, like, at the end of this video, pause it on this question, and then you just write down like gross profit margin, net profit margin, blank A4 piece of paper, nothing else. Like, because in the leaving cert, it'll just be you questioning a blank A4 piece of paper. So put yourself in an exam scenario, right, and just fire down the question, and then say to yourself, right, I'm going to calculate the gross profit margin, net profit margin using those figures. Okay, and if you go back, you get them right, that's the first step. Okay, and we'll chip away the rest of them, and you'll know it inside out within no time. Okay, that's great. Thanks, guys.